Welcome back to the shop, everyone. This week's video takes place in 2024, week 25, June 17th to June 23rd. And at this point in time, we are putting the car back up on blocks. So if you've been around, you will know that I have been trying to work on the clutch and get it working for the better part of 2 weeks to absolutely no success whatsoever. So I was recently on vacation in week 24, which is why there's absolutely no film for it. That's why we skipped from week 23 to 25. And one of the things I did is I went over some of the old pictures that I posted on Instagram from around when I was doing all of the clutch setup the first time around. And I realized I had a mistake in my calculations. So long story short, instead of writing a 5, I wrote a 3 somewhere, or a 2. I don't remember what it was. But that one small error made a real big difference. So I actually went back and I downloaded the pictures and threw them up on the screen here for you to see. So the measurement was 1.5130 and I wrote 1.2130. So I was 300 thousandths off, which, you know, some people might think that's not a big deal. But when you're dealing with precise measurements, that's a massive fuck up. So what we are going to do to correct this is we are going to jack the car up, which you're seeing at the moment. And then we are essentially going to undo a lot of the work that we redid. So I'm not really going to talk too much while I'm doing it because you've already seen me do it a bunch. But the order of operations more or less is going to be drop the exhaust, drop the drive shaft, unbolt the headers from the engine, and then with that stuff out, I gotta undo the O2 sensors, all of the sensors on the tranny, or all the connections on the tranny for the speed sensor, the reverse lockout solenoid, and the reverse lights. So those all gotta get pulled off, and then I can drop the tranny down. And when I have the tranny down, I'm going to remeasure everything and adjust the depth of the throwout bearing, and then as long as I do the math right this time, in theory my clutch should start working. So enjoy the ride. So one thing that's kind of interesting is watch as I drop this exhaust down. Look at how much water comes out of the exhaust. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, that is a shit ton of water. So in my mind, I'm like, well, might have blown a head gasket, because that's a lot of water in the exhaust. That's not, just your normal condensation. That's a shit ton. So whatever, we'll clean this up and we'll just continue. I know I need to get the tranny out anyway, so water in the exhaust doesn't change that. So let's just keep on keeping on. Yeah, having this floor tranny jack, it just makes this job so much nicer and easier. And it's funny, you know, when I'm under the car, I know that the car moves a little bit, but when you look at the video, you know, when you're jacking up on the tranny, like, the car moves a considerable amount. It's kind of crazy how much it's actually moving, because when you're underneath it, you don't think it's moving all that much. Like, you know, it's moving a bit, but it moves a lot. Yeah, so we're just getting up to the final part here of separating the tranny from the bell housing. So with that tranny jack, this goes fairly smoothly. I'm probably going to end up modifying that tranny jack a little bit, just because the angle adjuster knob, when that transmission is on it, is just in such a shitty spot that it's really almost impossible to use. But whatever, that's a problem for a later day. You can kind of see it here, like the adjuster knob is right at the very front of the transmission, so you can't even like spin it really. But the whole point of this video, remeasuring the depth for the throwout bearing. So I'm taking my ruler, I'm using this as a straight edge, I'm putting it across the bell housing, and then I'm using my calipers to measure the depth from the face of the ruler down to the teeth. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the thickness of the ruler, and that will give me the distance from the back of the ruler, which would be the front plane of the bell housing, to the teeth. And then what I need to do is I want the throwout bearing to be 250 thousandths shallow from there. So essentially, when the throwout bearing's at rest, there should be 250 thousandths of clearance in the initial position. When I first set this up, there should be 250 thousandths or a quarter inch of clearance between the throwout bearing and the teeth. Once I use the clutch, once the throwout bearing is designed to ride on the teeth, so once I've used the throwout, or once I've used the clutch once, it should just be on the teeth. But what happens is, when I measured the depth of the ruler incorrectly and I took 300 thousandths off, what I did was I simulated that. I essentially simulated that the teeth were closer, I believe. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure what happened is, when I did the measurement, instead of the teeth being in the correct spot, they were 300 thousandths closer. So essentially what was happening is, when I was pushing the clutch pedal, the throwout bearing was pushing the pressure plate and then continuing to press on it so much that the teeth were actually binding the top plate to the middle plates. So there was just not enough clearance. So I think, in theory, had I only pressed the clutch pedal a tiny little bit, it might have worked. But we are going to adjust and get this to the correct depth. So I'm just kind of prying this off of there. It's on there pretty good at this point. So I'm being gentle. It's an aluminum case, and I don't want to, crack anything or, break anything. So we're just giving it a tiny little bit of pressure on both sides, and just kind of working it off. Luckily, I kept that stud long, like the indexing stud, pretty long. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I am winding the throwout bearing in, so I'm pulling it away from the teeth. So because it was, way too close, it was just causing all sorts of havoc. So measure twice, install once, all that good stuff. But I am getting the correct measurement, and we'll throw this back in and see, I guess. I can't be wrong twice in a row. Can I? Can I? Well, while I got the car back here, I'm just dropping the back end onto jack stands, and I'm just taking a quick look at the pinion angle, make sure it's set up somewhat right, and then also taking a look at the upper control arms and making sure that they're adjusted somewhat evenly side to side. Yeah, it's good to do that while we're here. All right, well, because of all that water coming out of the exhaust, it kind of scared me a little bit. So what I did is I ordered a inspection camera so I can actually take a look in the cylinders and see if there's any water in the cylinders. Because if there's water in the cylinders, that means that I likely blew a head gasket already, and this adventure is dead in the water before we even really get going. But since that's on order and it's not in yet, there's a bunch of small little things I got to do before I get the car driving down the road anyways, like finish putting in the seat belts. So I'm just going in, putting in the rest of the eyelets. I'm going to drill in the one for the submarine belt, anti-submarine belt. Yeah, nothing too crazy, just putting some holes in carpet, throwing the eyelets in, and then adjusting the belts. Time to test these belts. If I was smart, I wouldn't be wearing a filthy shirt in a brand new seat, but I'm not that brake, clearly. But yeah, so just throwing all the belts on and just kind of tightening them down and doing a little bit of a test, and man, I am fucking excited to be driving this car. Oh man, I wish I had the shifter in it right now so I could shift and play around, but it's not in. So we are now going to bleed the clutch. We have done this several times. You have seen me bleed brakes a million times. You've seen me bleed the clutch a bunch of times. But because I had to pull the tranny out, I disconnected the clutch. So we're going to have to, bleed it again. So just getting this started, and what we're doing is filling it with fluid, letting it gravity bleed a bit, and then we're going to fill this syringe here with fluid, and then we're going to use this syringe directly in the reservoir outlet, just to get that fluid flowing down below. And then once we do this initial purge, you'll see that the fluid just drops really, really rapidly from the reservoir because it is just flowing through the system now. So just kind of making sure to keep it topped up. And now what I'm doing is attaching a bleed bottle, and what I'll do is I will fill the syringe, fill the reservoir, and try and bleed this with that bleed bottle so that, none of the, there's no air that gets back into the system. So it's the same bottle I used for the brakes that ended up working really well. So yeah, not much else to say other than, I'm just filling this up, putting a lot of fluid through the system, and then I will close it up. As you can see, that bottle is well over full, and we have made a massive mess on the floor, which is not the end of the world. We'll survive. But yeah, that is a shit ton of brake fluid on the floor to clean up, and cleaning up brake fluid just sucks. All right, so as I mentioned, I was waiting for an inspection camera, and I have it now. So that's it there. It's got a straight camera and then a camera at a 90-degree angle. So what I've done is I'm going to pull all the spark plugs out and just put the camera in the spark plug hole and just take a look in all 8 cylinders. If there's water in any of the cylinders, then engine has to come apart. So I'm really hoping that we don't have any water in any of the cylinders, because that would be very, very sad considering I just rebuilt this engine, but I did the work, so that's going to be suspect enough as it is. But yeah, no water in this, so I am ecstatic. So with that, I'm going to put a brand new set of plugs in. I found out that there's 2 different types of plugs. There's a plug that's designed for these old iron heads. It's got kind of a concave head on it where it goes into the cylinder head, or the spark plug type that I had before is just a flat washer, which is designed primarily for aluminum heads. So when I was trying to get this going and doing a little bit of tuning, having the wrong spark plugs is never a good thing, 'cause, it may not have been making a full seal, may have been letting extra air in or fuel out. But yeah, so we got proper plugs now, so that's a good thing. So we're just going to finish putting this all back together, put plugs in, O2 sensors below, all the tranny connections if that's not already done. definitely clean the floor up. And now that everything is all tightened back up and put back together, I of course went to start it and had a dead battery. So it's grabbing the battery charger out. I will throw it on the battery, get the battery charging so that we can hopefully start it and see if the clutch works. But while we're charging the battery, we can finish off some things in the interior, like putting the shifter back on. Shifter's back on. I at least have enough battery to get the ECU going, and I can just check it and make sure it's got a reasonable enough tune in it. All right, here goes nothing. So just firing up the car, letting it run, and yeah, clutch in. I think it was working. I don't really remember, but I think it worked. Yeah, I don't remember exactly if the clutch worked great or if it wasn't working 100%, but we are going to go and do a little bit more bleeding on it. So I'm pretty sure what had happened is I'd let the reservoir run dry when I was bleeding it the first time around, which means there might be a bunch of air in the system. So I'm just going to re-bleed it. I think I leave the camera down here so you can kind of see how much fluid and air comes out of this, and a lot of air did come back out of this, so I think I just had air in the system. But of course, I want to make sure this thing is bled, so I put a ton of fluid through it again, and we piss out a bunch of fluid again, but I know for a fact it is full. So at this point, my brake booster is still super duper loose. I haven't really tightened it all back up or reinstalled the brake rod. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tightening all the nuts back up, and I fuck up. As I'm tightening it down, I realized that the rod wasn't back on the pedal, so it was tightening the booster and then the rod was pushing right up against the brake pedal, and so I had to actually loosen it back off. And I have some new brake parts. There's a new bushing and a new sleeve and a new brake pin, so just doing a little bit of cleanup because I want to find those parts and pieces, and might as well get them in the car, installed on the car while we're here. So yeah, just showing you how this all works. Yeah, and then we'll just get the brake pedal back on the booster and then tighten down the booster to the firewall. Well, here goes nothing. You know, this is where we're going to test and see if the car actually moves on its own. And look at that. The clutch moves. I got a fucking shit-eating grin on my face. You couldn't really see it, but if you go back and pause it, you might be able to see it. But I am pretty fucking happy at this point in time. So let's just roll the car out of the shop now under its own power with a working clutch. You know, I'm just checking to see if that intercooler is clearing or not, and it was until then. And now the intercooler is hitting the ground yet again, which sucks because I thought I'd fixed that. But then after I fixed it, I went and I fucked around with all the suspension. So the car is just too low at this point for it to clear on its own without the help of that wood there. But whatever. Car's out of the shop, moving under its own power. The clutch works. Let's do a little bit of cleanup on this. It's beautiful. So, time to do a little bit of tuning on the car. I got it out of the shop. It's not super loud. Well, super loud in the car, but it's not as loud since it's not in the shop. So we're just going to run the car and just, you know, I'm just going to play around with the tune a little bit, even though I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to pretend like I do. And something that's crazy is you can see in the video here, the car slowly creeping forward, like the the eaves of the house is like getting closer and closer, and more of the garage doors being seen. I don't really think I noticed this happening when I was in the car, but yeah, you can totally tell in the video I'm just slowly creeping forward. I do need to work on that e-brake more, but in order to do that I need to pull the wheels off, pull the calipers off, pull the drums off, or not the drums, the rotors off, and then adjust them more. I just don't feel like doing that right now. For the summer it'll be fine. Well, since I'm thinking about maybe going out for a drive, I'm just going to torque the wheels down, and yeah, hopefully this is the last time I torque them for a while. But of course, before I take this out, I want to properly, I want to weld up the air intake. I'm not going to say properly because I do such a fucking trash job of this, but I don't care. This whole pipe has to get redone. I mean, it's janky. Yeah, but whatever. I need to weld it so that it's airtight, so that I don't get any rocks or anything else in the intake, because if that went through the Pro Charger, that would be a real bad thing and I would have a real bad day. But I'm just gonna clean it the best I can. I'm gonna get it welded up. It's a massive gap. I'm not a good enough welder to really weld that. But yep, whatever. I know I'm gonna redo it, and this will get me on the road this year at the very least. So as you can see, as that pipe is cooling down, I've just been cleaning up and puttering around and putting things away. And then, you know, I got these this set of golf clubs that I don't need anymore, and this is my buddy's broken pitching wedge. So just do a quick little practice shot, because, you know, when you get a golf club in your hand, you got to get a practice shot in. I'm so happy that, you know, the camera is so far away right now, because that intake pipe is so freaking ugly. It doesn't even deserve airtime, but it's going to work. You can see that I'm tightening down my air filter, and it is tightening down. And then I can put it up in the car and tighten it onto the Pro Charger. It's gonna work. It's ugly, but it's gonna work. Oh, this is exciting. It's time to put some plates on the car. Because you need plates to go driving. Are we going to go driving this video? I think so. Oh, I'm getting belted into the car. Just checking the laptop, making sure everything looks okay when I fire this thing up. And yeah, you can see on the switches up top, I got the fuel pump on the right. That shows that's running. Water pump's on the left, and we're driving. Holy shit, we were out on the road. This thing runs. I got a lot of work to do on the tune-up, but we're driving. That's the main thing. This is so freaking cool. And we're back in the shop. There's what are we doing here? Right. So what I notice is when I turn the wheel left or right and I hit any sort of bump, the wheels are actually rubbing on the inside of the fenders. So we gotta take the front wheels back off, and I bought a fender roller, and we're gonna see if we can get the inside lip on the fenders rolled so that the tires don't hit it anymore. The real fix would have been to have wheels with an extra 1/4 inch of backspace. So what that would have done is pushed the outside of the wheel closer to the inside of the car. Now the problem is Weld, who makes my rims, does not offer that specific rim in that size and width with the backspacing that I needed. And the reason why they don't is because I've got those big bare 6-piston calipers on the front, and in order for those to clear, I just, they can't give me any less backspace, which is unfortunate, but that's, the way it goes, especially when you're doing custom stuff. If I really needed to, what I would have ended up doing is cutting the fenders, opening them up, and kind of doing like my own wide body kit, even though the Capri kind of seems like it has its own wide body kit already. All right, so I bought this cheap fender roller off of Amazon, so we're gonna, put it together and see what we can do. Alright, so with this thing together, we're going to adjust it onto the inner lip, and then we're just going to kind of work it back and forth. And what I found out is this thing does not work for shit. It is garbage. It is just straight garbage. You'll see here in a second when I put this on and I start actually like working the fender. All it's doing is pushing the fender out. It's not bending that inner lip like it should. Now, the Capri isn't just a flat lip. It's got like a break in the middle, so that might add to it. But this tool is just not up for the job of rolling Mustang or Capri fenders. Well, definitely not the Capris, maybe Mustangs. But yeah, so I start rolling here in a second, and you know, granted the bottom isn't bolted to the car, but I grab a clamp, I clamp it down, and then the whole thing, once I start actually working it, like, yeah, the whole fender just like bends outwards like 2 inches, and it's not good. We have to go to plan B. So we're going to send that hunk of junk back. And what is plan B? Well, Plan B is kind of hammer the fenders, and then we switch over to Plan C, get a grinder out. So I'm going to grind that inner lip and then use Plan B, which was the hammer. So I'm making marks every 2 inches. I'm going to take the die grinder, cut every 2 inches, and then I'm just going to bend the flaps up with a hammer. Do the same thing on both sides, and hopefully we have more than enough clearance for these wheels. obviously, now that we have the fenders rolled, we have to go for another drive and test it out. So right now I'm just running the car, just kind of checking to see the tune and how it's running and, you know, stuff like that. And you can see the camera is actually moving on its own. And that's because this thing vibrates so much when it's running with the engine plate. Like all the vibration from the engine just goes straight into the chassis. So this thing, you know, moves a lot to the point where the camera actually falls off the roof. I might catch it, I might not, and then I don't learn my lesson and I put it back on the roof and it falls off again. And because I'm not that smart, I do it a third time and then I finally put it behind me. All right, so with that work done, we're going to jump in the car and we are going to go for drive around the block number 2. I am not going for long drives at all. This is just, you know, make sure everything works. Nothing is blowing up. Nothing, you know, no oil's falling out of it. No fluids are coming out of it. That type of thing. So we are, just taking this super easy, super chill, right close to home. If it breaks down, you know, I don't need to get a tow truck. I can either just push it or, you know, I got a couple of neighbors who could help me push it. So just bring it back, you know, take a look at the data log, look at the computer, take a look at the fuel table, and then we can go out for another drive. Well, folks, with that, with this last little bit here, I hope you're as excited as I am that the car drives and runs and, can go around the block. But that is all the time that we have for this episode. So as always, if you stuck around this long, I would like to thank you for viewing, and we'll see you in the next one.